Welcome to the Gay Wellness Podcast. My name is Darren Main, and I will be chatting today with Andrew Rowe. He is a spiritual coach and healer, energy healer, who specializes in working with healing past trauma and working through self-limiting beliefs. And in this podcast, we talk to healers and people who motivate gay men from every different background so that we can live better as gay men. Before we get started, I want to give you Andrew's website, which is andrew-rowe.co.uk. So if you have additional questions for him or you want to reach out to him or learn more about his work, you can find him there or on the Gay Wellness website. And I will link to both of those things as well as my profile and some of my work as well. Andrew, welcome. It is so nice to chat with you. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you, Darren. How are you?
I'm really good. So you're in London or near London?
Currently in London, yeah.
In London.
Thick of it.
That's why you've got my morning hair and your nice, relaxed end of the day glow.
I think I have a glow because I've got a light on my face, but we'll go with, yes, end of the day glow.
We'll go with inner light, not ring light. How's that?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk to you. I'm a big fan of your work, and I think that many gay men will be excited to hear some of what you have to say. What I'd like to do is talk first just briefly about you. Like, there's lots of coaches out there and people doing spiritual work, but I think that means different things to different people. So I'm wondering if you could just say, just briefly, like what it is you do. What does a spiritual coach do?
Sure, yeah.
And how do you help people?
Yeah, so essentially what I do is I specialize in limiting beliefs and authenticity. So, every client is different, but what we look at is looking at what are the beliefs that are preventing you from living your true authentic self. And when I mean that, I mean moving from soul, from higher self, rather than from ego. And so the way I work is a combination of my intuition, like listening to my client's energy to feel like what's going on, to finding out what the belief system is, to then finding out where that is located in their body, and then how that's linked to a memory, because all our beliefs are created from specific memories. And when we're holding on to these memories, that programming is still taking place within our system, even though it's unconscious. And that's why we have certain patterns, certain triggers in our life. So essentially what I do is this like kind of whole healing from belief to body to memory, to really just kind of uncover why that belief system is there in the first place, and then to heal the inner child so that the person can live with more alignment.
There's so much to unpack there. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think what you're saying is really, really important to gay men or queer people in general, because we do have these memories. Most of us grew up in cultures and communities and families and religions that certainly were far from affirming to us as gay men. And just because we come out of the closet doesn't mean we come out empty-handed. We sort of bring a lot of that with us, and it sort of bleeds through into our relationships and our work and all of that. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about those self-limiting beliefs as they relate specifically to gay men, because I think you have some really valuable insights here.
Sure. I mean, the main one that I see time and time again is actually a denial of their homosexuality. This internalized homophobia that has been conditioned, whether it's by parents, whether it's by society. And, gay men I've worked with who truly believe that they don't have this, actually deep down are still harboring it, because we've been conditioned to believe that's the truth, to believe that we're somehow bad, to believe we're somehow wrong, to believe that we're a mistake, and even though as adults we may have created all of these kind of walls or shields around us to protect us from that limiting belief, it's still very much present in a lot of gay men. And what I've noticed is when we can identify that, work through that, that's when self-love starts to take place. And that's the key.
I can imagine someone listening to this and saying, I'm fine. I came out. I have a fabulous gay life. I go to clubs. I get laid all the time. I like show tunes, whatever they think it means to be gay. And I don't have any internalized homophobia. I'm fine. I'm not like shaming myself. Like, what's this guy talking about? So I'm wondering if you could say, like, how does that manifest for people? Like, for somebody who is out and sort of living openly as a gay man, what is the problem?
I guess it's looking at it from a perspective of, does this individual truly love themselves? And so you can, of course, live an open gay life where you're out, you're partying, you're having lots of sex, but then you have to look at, well, what are my habits, my vices? Like, am I using sex as a way of covering up, my fear of intimacy and vulnerability? Am I using drugs as a way of releasing myself from the pain, the hurt that I experienced when I was younger? Am I going on Instagram or getting a hot body for validation because I never received my father's love? And it's kind of looking at that. And, Darren, there's nothing wrong with wanting to party. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a good body. I'm all for that. Health is so important, and also play is important. But it's important to look at what is the motivation behind that. Because if the motivation is coming from a place of lack, of scarcity, of fear, then it's going to always backfire in some way. And we see that time and time again in the gay community.
Yeah. Well, we see that in the stats and the drug addiction and sex addiction, and just you're hitting the nail right on the head. The flip side of that coin is something you just brought up in your initial response, and that was authenticity. What is your authentic self? And I think for many people, what they think is authentic is what society has told them is authentic, not what is genuinely authentic. But I think we have to start from somewhere. So how do you define authenticity and the authentic self? What does that even look like?
Absolutely. So look, the authenticity can be perceived in two different ways. It can be from personality. So your way of dealing with something will be different to my way of dealing with something, because your personality is different, right? So your version of authenticity might be to be more introvert. My version of authenticity might be to be more extrovert. But what I'm more talking about is the one thing that we all have in common, which is this soul, this energy, this light within ourselves, which is egoless. And so becoming our authentic self is to move away from the ego and move closer to that version of who we are. So more love, more compassion, forgiveness, non-judgment. That is moving towards the authentic self. And so to get to that place, it's to just remember that we all are already there. We just have to release the negative feelings to get there.
Yeah. So this is where I think many people, myself included at times in my life, get stuck, is we know we don't want the vapid, the shallow, sort of like we've been down this road. We know what hooking up feels like, and we know that it feels good for a moment and then maybe icky later. Like, there's so many aspects of gay life that we sort of know is not authentic. And we know that there's something more, there's something better, there's a truer, more authentic version of ourselves, our lives that we could be living. But getting from where we are to where we suspect we could be, those are two very different things. And I'm wondering if you have any tips, like a few just like things people could experiment with or try to tap into something a bit more authentic in their life.
100%. I think it's to always look at the motivation behind your behavior. So say, I really want to go to the gym. I really want to have a six-pack. Ask yourself, do I want a six-pack because I want validation from others, or do I want a six-pack because I want to be healthy? When you look at the motivation behind things, you start to realize, okay, I'm not actually doing this for me. I'm doing this for someone else. And that means you're not being truly authentic, because you're just doing it for someone else. Therefore, you're doing it for their validation, to feel more worthy and good enough. So that the first thing I would say is look at the motivation behind your behavior. The second thing I would say is to, look at your patterns in your life. So if you have a tendency of indulging in sex, for example, you probably already know on some level it's probably because you don't feel worthy enough or good enough. So then it's like, become more inquisitive. Don't take things at face value. Don't think like, oh, this is just who I am and I'm never going to be able to change. That's one of the biggest breakers that I see, is when people think that they're never going to be able to change. And remember, your beliefs create your reality. So if you believe you're never going to be able to change, you're not going to change. And so when you take a more inquisitive perspective, rather than a blaming perspective, rather than being like, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I shouldn't have done that, but being like, why did I choose to do that? And I wonder where that comes from. And it comes from my 4-year-old self. Okay, what happened when I was 4, and start to go back in time and start to heal the inner child. Now, of course, doing that on your own can be challenging, but it's possible, through journaling, through meditation, but, get a therapist, get a coach. They can help you through that as well. So I would say those are my tips.
There's a part of your story that I'm pretty familiar with, and others may not be, that I'd love for you to reflect on a little bit, because I think it's sort of symbolic of where a lot of us find ourselves at different points in our lives. I know you were in another country, I'll let you tell the story, and had an accident, and it was pretty traumatic. And a lot of what I would say maybe life lessons, I'll let you describe it, came out of that experience. But I wonder if you would be willing to share that and sort of extrapolate that a little bit to where many gay men might be finding themselves at different times.
So I was living in Southeast Asia, having just dealt with my father who died of cancer. I thought, well, I'm going to move to Southeast Asia and feel what it's like to be a digital nomad, and had a really amazing time. And on the 5th of January, I was on the motorway on my moped and in Thailand, and I was turning right, and a pickup truck drove straight into me. And I went flying off my moped, and by the grace of whoever is looking after me, I actually just fractured my wrist in 2 places and badly bruised my back. But it had a huge impact on me, because it fully put me into a standstill. I was moving so fast, and now I had to slow down. And, I had this guy that was coming all the way from London to see me in Bangkok. And it was like a real moment of surrender. And, it really made me step into my authentic self, not my ego self, because my ego self would be like, oh, it's unfair. Why is this happening to me? Just before this guy comes to Bangkok, and now this has happened to me. And why is the universe doing this to me? My dad's already just died of cancer, and that's your inauthentic self. Your authentic self is, right, this is the situation. How can I learn from this situation? How can I grow from it? What is the lesson? This was a near-death experience, Andrew. What is the universe trying to show you in this moment? And, applying it to gay men in their lives, we are faced with challenges, moments, whether that's being laid off from a job, whether that's our partner cheating on us, whether that's, having a parent that's ill, whatever it is, we always have a choice. Do we choose to be the victim, or do we choose to be the hero? And I feel like in this moment, it's important to feel your feelings. I'm not saying don't feel your feelings. I'm not saying be in toxic positivity, but I'm saying that feel your feelings and then let them go, and then move forwards with what is the lessons? What am I learning? How can I grow from this? Because every experience is a learning and growing experience. So that was my little experience that happened to me.
It's interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking more as like a community. I'm old enough to have lived through the AIDS crisis when it was a real crisis in terms of people, the obituaries, many pages long each week. And it's interesting that out of that crisis, that just horrible, horrible, awful time, the gay men and the whole queer community, our lesbian sisters, like really stepped up. And there was something about that crisis that brought us together in a way that it seems like we've lost a little of that as the crisis has passed. I think we have slipped back into being a little more superficial at times. Not all of us, not all the time, but there was something about that crisis that was like, this is life or death. You either step up and take care of each other and be advocates for each other, or that's it. And it was amazing what happened during that time. And like on a personal level, I love your story because it just really, I think when people are feeling broken, it's such a good reminder, like, what are you going to do with this? This sort of sucks. What are you going to do with it? So thank you for sharing that. I would love to give you a minute to just talk about your work, like more broadly. If somebody's listening to this and they're sort of resonating with your words, how would they work with you? You're obviously in London, so I'm assuming you work remotely.
Yeah. So I only
take that where you want.
I only work remotely. And so I have a 4-month program called the Authentic You program. And basically it's a very intense program in the sense that we do a lot of healing. So it's like 3 healings a month. And then you have access to me on Signal or Vox or whatever you want to call it, as your coach in your pocket kind of thing. And what we do is we look at like, well, where are you living inauthentically in your life, and start to shift and change the beliefs and heal the memories that are preventing you from actually just finding true happiness. Because you can have it all. You know, you can have the money, you can have the lifestyle, you can have all of that, but are you truly feeling that you are purposeful? Do you feel like you are happy? And that's what I help people come back to, because when you come back to your true essence of love, when you come back to who you truly are, of course you're going to feel happy. And that's when your life starts to change, because you start to realize it's not about living a life of a monk. You know, I still like luxury things. I still like it's not about being non-material, but it's about realizing that your worth is not dependent on the material. Your worth is not dependent on the job that you do, or the guy that you sleep with, or the bottle of Cristal that you buy in a club. You know what I mean? So that's essentially what I do, is I just help my clients come back to that true essence of love through this beautiful co-created journey of seeing, well, where and what needs to heal, what negative feelings and beliefs need to be released, so that my light can shine brighter, because everyone's light is already shining. You know, The only thing is that we've just put all of this kind of these cloaks, these masks over it out of protection, because we didn't feel like it was safe enough to let that light shine.
Yeah. You are an amazing man, my friend, and I'm so glad I got the chance to chat with you. And I would love to do this again with you. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of some of your insights and wisdom. So can I invite you back on again sometime?
I would love it. I really, really enjoyed it. And you too are an amazing man, Darren, so don't forget that. Thank
you.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
You should do this for a living, reminding people that they're amazing.
Oh my God.
So I am going to put some links in the show notes, whether you're watching the video version of this podcast or the audio version you're listening. We will put some links in the show notes that lead to Andrew's webpage and his gay wellness profile, if you'd like to learn more about his work as a coach and his program. You can find all of that there. Also, I just have to say, your Instagram little short videos that you do are like, it's sort of like a nice little shot in the arm. Like, sometimes I don't have time to read a whole book. I just need a quick reminder of something. And I love your Instagram videos. They're just the right amount. It's like a multivitamin each day. It just gives you that little boost.
Thank you.
And so I'll link to you on social media as well. And I will also put links to my work. I'm also a coach and a yoga teacher and a massage therapist here in Berkeley. And I'll put links to all of that in the show notes as well. Finally, if you have comments or questions for us, drop them in the comment section. Or if you have suggestions for other topics that you would like us to cover, other healers or teachers or guests you would like to have on, please drop those in the comments as well. And I will definitely consider trying to do something just for you. Thank you for tuning in to the Gay Wellness Podcast. Thank you, Andrew, for being here with me, and we'll see you next time.